Hi, my name is Trudy Grable, and I'm with Parents Helping Parents. I'm the Director of Community and Family Services here at PHP. And we have a lot of families that come to us who have had experiences with abuse of their children. Today, we have the honor of having Nora Baladerian here from Southern California, who is an expert on this topic. We also have with us Claudia Hardy, and she is the manager of the program that helps us make sure that people who come from different places of origin have the same experiences as everyone else in the community in as far as services. So I'm going to start out with a question for Nora. Nora, why do you think we have so much difficulty getting parents to talk about sexual abuse or sexuality, meaning just learning body parts, and being able to approach their children on this topic?
Okay. Um, Generally, am I mic'd? Oh, I'm already mic'd. I'm sorry. Um, we have a taboo in our culture, and it seems to be apparent in every culture that you're not supposed to talk about sex. First of all, you're not supposed to do sex. Second of all, people do. That's why we're all here, obviously. But the taboo is not to talk about it at all. And I think particularly with kids with developmental disabilities, parents are afraid that if they talk about it, then the child will do something sexual. So that undermines the child's ability to learn about their own body. I think that it's important to know the proper names of the body parts, all of them. And parents, however, tend to give little cutesy names to various sexual body parts. And I think that most people don't recognize that, like, we have a digestive system and we have a neurological system, we have a sexual system. And it's a whole nother system. It's not the reproductive system, it's the sexual system. And parents are not taught that. They don't know that in school.
Mm-hmm.
And before they have children, they're not taught how to do sex ed with their kids. And they learn from their families the same attitudes that they came from, which are that's nasty, it's dirty, it's disgusting, don't talk about it, and if you're going to have sex, make sure that nobody knows about it and it's under the covers and you never talk about it, and if you get pregnant then everybody's happy, but you don't want to talk about how that happened. So it's such a complex mix of attitudes, negative attitudes, that seem to be pretty common in most cultures. So we're kind of an anti-sex discussion culture. But we celebrate when people are having babies, and that's wonderful. But that can only happen in one way, which we don't want to talk about. So it's a matter of overcoming their resistance in the service of their children, who they want to be safer. And I found that when I'm doing trainings for parents on abuse, sexual abuse, um, rooms that are prepared for 100 people receive 20 people, 15 people. And of those, I asked them, well, why did you come? And they said, well, I didn't want to come. I thought about it all week or all whatever. And I thought, no, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. And the last minute, I should go because I don't know what to do. So it's a terrible battle to face something, an awful something that could happen, sexual abuse, but not have any confidence that you'll be able to do anything about it. So the brave people who come, then they learn, oh, there are things that I can do to reduce the risk of it happening. So often you'll see prevention programs and they all start with, here's the signs of abuse. For me, that's too late. Abuse has already happened if there's signs of abuse.
Okay.
I want to start before abuse ever happens and have both parents and children, whether or not they have a disability, but my work focuses on children with disabilities, whether they're adults or minors, and help them to learn and the parents to learn where danger lurks and what to do if danger appears on the horizon. And if you can get out of it, that's great. And if you can't, you should know what to do during the abuse. And then also, parents often don't know what they're supposed to do once they learn about abuse. And often they get angry at the perpetrator, but the person in front of them is the child. And often it's dads, but mothers too, but most often, I'm gonna kill that guy, right? Which is legitimate anger. But what the child needs to hear is, I believe you, thank you for telling me. I know what to do. So let's start doing this and a more gentle approach. So what's exciting to me is to be able to teach them things that they can do to reduce the risk. There's no promise that abuse won't happen, but there is a promise that you and the child can have an understanding of it. And I put it in the context of other unwanted things, like earthquakes. We know that there's a plan that we can implement. And we do that when? Before. And then when the earthquake comes, we say, oh, we're supposed to do this. And then you do that. And then after the earthquake, then you do your after the earthquake plan. So it's similar to that. It's intense. It's difficult in that there's new learning, but it's easy in that it's all written out already for people, in both in English and in Spanish. Does that answer the
It
question?
does, absolutely.
As to speaking about sexuality, as a certified sex educator, I learned that I, of course, have my own reluctance to say words related to sexuality, but because of the cultural things. But the thing is that you can make it fun. So in service of the children or whoever you're going to be working with, you just pick words that are difficult for you to say. And for women, usually it's cunt. That's one of the most ugly words. Well, the way to get over that is to say it 1,000 times. You're in the elevator.
Alone, right?
Alone. Oh, somebody comes in, you shut up. Right. And for men, there are words that they don't like either, or that they may feel embarrassed, or they don't want to say to their children. Once you've said it 1,000 times, then it's easy, and then the child doesn't get the charge on it.
Right.
That you don't really want to be passing down as a family member. So I know it sounds kind of strange, but it actually works. And so the fact that we have a charge on that, and you recognize that immediately, is something that we don't want to burden our children with, and particularly kids with developmental disabilities who are so vulnerable to abuse. I think it's incumbent upon us as the grown-ups to get over our shame or taboo or uncomfortable feelings in order to not pass that on to our children, so that they can freely say, hey, mommy, Uncle Sammy touched my whatever he touched, right, and say the actual word. Now, saying the actual word is also important if you're going to go, if it occurs that you're going to need to go to a forensic interview or talk to a police officer or talk to a nurse. You don't want to say my friction budget, because that's not going to do. You want to be able to say my penis or my vulva or my breasts or whatever, but not to use cutesy words or in the family words, because that's not going to go well in an interview. And why? I like to use the word elbow. Elbow, nothing wrong with elbow. Well, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with any of the other body parts.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Right. Well, Nora, thank you for being here and share with us such a great information. And I have a question, because my background is Hispanic, and we, the Hispanic, have lots of taboo in relation to sexuality. But when those things happen, occur to the kid with disability, we do not know, or we're afraid to go and ask for help, or we don't know where to go. It's very difficult, and I guess for the Anglo community too was the same, to figure out where to go and get help when the child doesn't speak, but there is no way they can communicate what's going on. But show it with behavior. That's the way that they can show that something's going on. But who understand where they can go? The police is not prepared
to take cases like that. So what do you think about it?
The police is the only option. If you want to take care of that problem, what we know about perpetrators is that they never stop. So it's incumbent upon, when we find that abuse has happened, I think we want to stop that person. If the child doesn't talk, they may have some way of communicating. They may not, but they may. So you always start with the police. That person may have a record. And they go, oh, you're the third one to come in this week with a similar complaint. You don't know. But there isn't anything else but the police when there's a crime. You want to report the crime.
Right.
So that's very important. What are the police going to do about it? Well, there are efforts to train the police on how to effectively interact with children and adults with developmental disabilities.
So you mean that they have people that are being trained and going to be able to understand what the child who will show a behavior and not communicate going through and the family.
Yes. The police have a job to do, protect the public. The public includes people with disabilities.
Right.
So there is a training videotape for police officers to understand about children and adults who have different ways of communicating, who look different than XYZ person, who may behave a little bit differently than XYZ person because of the disability. And it acquaints them with people with different kinds of disabilities, children and adults. So I recommend police training. Okay. Now, I won't say that it's always wonderful with the police either, because sometimes they will just say, well, that person has a disability, we're not going to take the report, and then you just simply say, well, that's illegal, there's the Americans with Disabilities Act, your job here is to take a crime report, I want to make a crime report, I won't take a crime report, okay, great, let me talk to the supervisor, and then you just keep going up until you get someone to write the report. You're reporting a crime, or a suspected crime. And then it needs to be the investigation.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there red flags that we could identify in environments that families should be on the lookout for? And to follow up with that, we have a lot of people who are living in residential care homes and supported living environments. And a lot of times people are asking about nanny cams. In the bedrooms or in the common space, and what is the position of the legality for doing that, if you know? But again, there's a lot of red flag. Well, there's a lot of people out there with unchecked power.
Yes.
So how do we make sure that our sons and daughters are not falling victim, and are there cues that we can identify?
No. There's nothing that's 100%. In terms of videotaping, although it's very inviting to think about it, it would be a violation of their right to privacy, which is protected by the federal government. So no, we can't be videotaping people in their homes or unbeknownst to them. Now when they're on the public school bus, that's a different question. But if you're talking about having videos in their own home, that's a whole nother question. So the answer really legally is no. You can't point the videotape towards, the bathroom, that would be a violation, or the bedroom, that would be a violation, or even just in the everyday work. But in general, when people are living in congregate living, people know who's there. There's staff, there's qualified staff, there's, what is the word when you have to vet somebody? You basically know who is in that house. What about when there's a new staff person? What about when the staff person decides to bring her boyfriend? What about those? Those are violations, and they are not permitted to be on the grounds. When they are on the grounds, how are you going to know? So there are a number of things that are recommended in the protocol that I've produced for what parents should be doing in terms of knowing who has authorized access to their child. So in a group home, for example, authorized access is not the cousin of the caregiver. So you would want to make sure to tell the group home owner, whoever that is, I don't want anyone who is not on my list of staff that you have vetted, right, to be having anything to do with my child. And if you're going to invite somebody, I need to know about that ahead of time. Because you should have a right to who has access to your child, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing happens in schools. You can know who the teacher is, and you can know who the teacher aide is, and you can ask for information about them. You can ask the teacher, let me see your certificate. I'd love to see your certificate. Oh, I see it expired 4 years ago. Oh, right? So in the book, I have a little table that you may have seen that guides the parents through asking these questions. What is the name of the teacher? When did she get her credential? When does it expire? Are there special credentials that she has? Those kinds of things, and take a photo. So it's easier for your child to tell you who might be distressing them or who is making them really happy if they have a photo, right?
Oh.
So it's nice to have a photo. Often they have class pictures, and so it could be another kid. So they could point to another kid.
Yeah.
Or there's a volunteer in the classroom that nobody told you about.
Oh, yeah.
So you make it known to the school,
Right.
the principal, the vice principal, the superintendent, and the teacher that you don't want anyone to have access to your child that you don't know about, which could be another parent.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's fine to have another parent, but who are the perpetrators in general? People known to the child, right? So those are the most likely. So that's why you just want to know, I just want to know your name. Could I have your name? And what is your last name? And whose mother are you? Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's good. Nice to meet you. Can I have your phone number? Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm so-and-so's mom. Oh, yeah, sure. So if it later turns out that your son is complaining about me, then you go, I know Nora. Oh, okay. So then you take your next move, right? But you at least have someone that you have identified. Now, obviously, you're not going to be given that information, but there's parents groups, right? And you meet other parents, and as your kids are coming in and out, you meet the other parents, and so you get to know them. And then the other thing I like to say is, in terms of being a prepared parent, you also want to be an abuse-aware parent. So for agencies, I call it AAA, an abuse-aware agency. And when I work with an agency, and they've completed all of their to-dos, for example, is that then they have like an award thing, and they put it up on their walls as one walks in. We are an abuse-aware agency, which helps in another way. So let's say that you are looking to hire someone, and I come in and I'm a perpetrator, and I know that there's vulnerable children where you work. So that's what I want, is vulnerable children, right? So I come in for my interview and it says abuse-aware agency. I'm going to think, oh, well, what does that mean? So in my interview, I'm going to ask you. And you're going to say, oh, well, of course we vet everybody. But in addition, we are 100% reporting suspicious behavior. So we don't necessarily call the police. We may just put you on a week's leave while we investigate what we've heard. And this happens with everybody. You know, there's no no skin in the game lost, so to speak. So then, like one time, so you hire me, let's say, and then she tells you something about me that she saw. And you say, well, Nora, you know, we've heard a couple of things. We, as you know, we just say, stop right now, and we're going to investigate. You have a week off, and this is what we do here at this job. I go, oh, yeah, okay, well, I get a week off, right? Or I go, oh, shit, they found out, right? But here's the deal. Let's say that I see this abuse-aware thing, and you tell me about your program. It's a detailed program. And I realize I'm here because I want access to vulnerable people. And they are an AAA agency. It's much more likely that I'm going to be found out here then I go to another place. So I come in for my last interview and you say, okay, well, we'd like to offer you a job. You know what? I just got another call for a different job, so I'm going to choose that job. So what it helps with is offenders are going to choose a place to work where they're least likely to be discovered.
To give them away.
So I recommend that people do the AAA program, the Abuse Aware Agency program.
I have one more question for you, and then we'll let you rest before you do our all-day conference tomorrow.
Oh, yes, yes.
Most of the clients that we serve have children who are regional center clients that find that they don't have a resource to go to, and often the regional center systems, which of course are only in California, are not really equipped to handle this either. What should families expect from the regional center system, from their health insurance? For a lot of people, it's just Medi-Cal. What should they expect from those systems of care in their recovery and treatment of this situation?
Okay, well, there is an IPP, and if that changes because conditions changed, because there has been an abuse or suspected abuse, now because of the way things are, as you were mentioning about language and police and not going to the police and things like that, often in many cases the abuse is not confirmed in that way, but you know something happened because that child has changed.
Right.
So if you can get a police report, even if they can't go all the way through to verifying all of the details, but the police reports a crime that qualifies for victims of crime program, then therapy can be provided, paid for by the victims of crime program. If the child or the adult doesn't qualify for the victims of crime program, then regional center, I believe, has a responsibility to cause appropriate therapy to occur. Now that of course would not be behavioral therapy because it's trauma, so you would want to do trauma therapy for a trauma victim.
Correct.
And the reason I say that is because I've had many clients who initially were given behavior modification when they needed trauma therapy. So it seems like sometimes they have blinders on, that the only thing to do is to change their behavior when you really want to change their heart, when you want to release the trauma that they've experienced. So that you want real therapy, like other victims of crime experience is trauma therapy. So it's a responsibility, I believe, of the regional center to cause that to happen. Now sometimes they'll refer to DMH saying, well, you know, we don't pay for it, but that's the Department of Mental Health. Problem with that is most of those therapists are not trained in working with people with developmental disabilities in the first place. So I think it really falls to the regional center. And there are therapists that are vendored by the regional center who can provide trauma therapy. They have psychologists. Most of the regional centers, I'm not going to say all, but at least 20 of the 21 do provide therapy. Now sometimes you have to be very advocating, you know, and say, I want therapy for my child and I want therapy for me because I'm a secondary victim. I'm the mother or the father or the sister. And some of the regionals, I work in LA, I used to work in LA County, and all of those regional centers certainly paid for the therapy for their client and family therapy, because of trauma like that reverberates through the whole family, and they all need healing.
Yes.
So absolutely, some regional centers pay for that. I think that if they do not pay for a qualified licensed trauma therapist, that's what I would be looking for, then you can petition for that to be covered through your regional center.
Okay. I want to just thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your years of experience in this field. You have a website, you have written a lot of materials. We refer to your website continuously.
Oh, that's great.
We even have your materials here in our library. We use the rules of sex. We have risk reduction in both languages, but getting your own copy and having it at hand I think is really valuable for families to do.
Yes.
Can you tell us where they can find that?
Okay, well, that's on my, it's referred to in our website on disability and abuse, which is disabilityandabuse.org. But to actually order the books, you have to go to my website, which is my name, norabaladerian.com. And then you go to guidebooks, and then you just order the book.
Great, and we'll put a caption with your web address.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nora.
Thank you. I hope this was helpful to you.
I think it'll be helpful to a lot of families.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.